Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Secrets to Real Estate Investing by House Flip Masters. We have a really experienced, interesting guest today. I'm so excited for him to come share his knowledge and expertise with you, my listeners, today. His name is Khleif, and just want to share a little bit about his background with you. He is definitely one of America's top real estate professionals and has personally owned more than 2,000 single-family homes. Yes, 2,000, and multiple apartment communities. He's also built several multi-million-dollar businesses and has dedicated himself as a community philanthropist, forming and leading the Tiny Hands Foundation, which has benefited more than 40,000 underprivileged children. I just love that he has had huge success and is now giving back. So with that, welcome to the show, Rod.
Oh, thanks so much, Holly. I really appreciate you having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. Well, for those listeners that have not met you or heard you before, give us a little bit of background on what you've done and how you got to where you're at today.
Well, I cringed when you said 2,000 houses because it's painful just to even think about having done that. And by the way, guys, don't do that. Those of you that are listening, that's not the way to do this business. But anyway, my background, I immigrated when I was 6 from Holland. Ended up in Denver and decided I loved real estate and started buying houses there. Ended up buying about 500 houses in Denver, all on a buy and hold strategy. I did a lot of flipping though too, and I know this shows a lot about flipping, and I love flipping, and I made a lot of money flipping. But you know, I decided fairly early on that I loved cash flow and consistent cash flow. And you know, I realized that when I was flipping, every January 1st I had to go back to work again. So, you know, what I decided was I want to buy assets that cash flow. My problem was I stuck with houses instead of just doing multifamily. So I ended up with 500 houses in Denver, sold all those, bought a couple hundred houses in Memphis, which I affectionately call a seminar. I don't call them failures. I call them seminars because you learn from them. But then ended up buying about 1,400 houses in Florida. And when '08 hit, I had 800 houses. And in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million just sleeping. And of course, I did the math on that. It's like $3,500 an hour. And my head was so big, I could barely make it through the door. But that was '06, and everybody knows what happened in '08. And I didn't focus on cash flow. And so, you know, and so I imploded. I mean, 800 houses, poof, it was a $50 million seminar. And what was interesting, though, was, well, let me back up. And the reason that it imploded was because, first of all, taxes and insurance are very high here in Florida, so they really impact your cash flow. And I had pulled money out of these houses, you know, through refinancing, and I just didn't focus on cash flow. I focused on value 100%. And so what was interesting, though, when the whole thing imploded, my multifamily properties, I had some apartment complexes and they did just fine. And so I came to the realization that I should have stuck with multifamily for the buy and hold piece of my strategy. So, you know, I started a podcast myself called Lifetime Cash Flow Podcast, and we just talk about multifamily real estate investing. And it's, you know, that's kind of my aha moment from my experience was, you know, single family houses are a great way to make a ton of money flipping. And I mean, I have some incredible stories from flipping, but it, you know, every January 1st, if you're flipping houses, you go back to work. But if you take that money, if you guys are smart and you take that money and you invest it in cash flowing assets, now you could do houses. I'm going to push for you to do multifamily, but you could do houses too, of course. But if you invest in cash flowing assets, of course, at some point, you don't have to work anymore. And to me, it doesn't get any better than that. You know, when I was buying properties in Denver, I was looking at apartment complexes, and I met this old Jewish guy. This is decades ago, I guess probably 30 years ago. That really dates me, probably 35 years ago. Anyway, and this guy told me something I never forgot. He said, I told him I wanted to buy apartment buildings. And he looked at me and said, son, that's the smartest thing you could ever do. He said, and his were all free and clear. And I remember what he said. He said, if you do it and you pay them off, it's buckets of cash. And that phrase stuck with me to this day. So, that's kind of my shtick, and that's my background in 30 seconds or less. But anyway, so.
I love it. Well, I'd love to give our listeners kind of the overview of kind of your path. Maybe you could share with us one of your flipping success stories, if you can remember way back.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was a long time
and then
ago.
we'll graduate on to your other deals that, as you went on to apartments. So
well, I will tell you a little trick. I'll tell you a little trick. Now, this is something that I subscribe to, but this is going to make some of you guys who are listening cringe. But where I've made my most money is when I've been willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do.
Yeah.
And what I did back in Denver was I literally went and knocked on the doors of people that were in foreclosure. Knocked on the door, not mailing like everybody else does. I knocked on the door. Hi, this is Rod Khleif. I was down at the courthouse. I saw you having some trouble with countrywide funding. I help people in situations like this. Do you have a minute to chat about it? And if you have the gumption to do that, it can be very lucrative, okay? Now, of course, I was a broker at the time, too. I was actually listing houses. I forgot to mention that. I got my broker's license when I was 18, and that's how I got started, was just listing these foreclosed houses. But then I realized, hey, why am I not buying them? And so that's when I started buying. But the moral of the story is, and this applies to pretty much anything in any business that you do, if you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, you can be a success. Every night, and I'm not kidding, Monday through Thursday from 5:30 to 7, I was knocking on doors. And then from Saturday for a couple hours for the people I didn't meet. And I'd leave a card, and something like foreclosure specialist on my card. But the key here, guys, if you guys are thinking about doing this in whatever market you're in, the key is you have to come from a place of love and caring. You do not come from a place of, I'm going to buy your house and make money. You come from a place that I'm going to help you. I'm here to help you. And you need to embody it, because they will sense if you're there to take advantage of them. You have to come from a place, and truly you are there to help them. If you solve their problem, you've helped them. So you look for a win-win situation. It's not a win-lose. And you can help people and make a ton of money doing that. So that's one thing, one little tip. Another thing that I'll tell you that has been very successful for me is, and again, this is doing what other people aren't willing to do, is, how everybody gets lists and they mail them. We buy houses, or they put the yard signs up. I've done it all. Taking one extra step and actually getting phone numbers for properties that you see that are run down, that have potential, for a deal, when you're driving for dollars. And actually getting those people's phone number and actually picking up the phone and calling. And that's what very, very few people will do. But I'm telling you, that's what, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was pretty much, I wasn't afraid of rejection. I was afraid of rejection from girls, but not from sellers. I went out and did this. And so that's kind of my flipping story. And I used to, I don't know if I should share this publicly. I will. Screw it. I used to buy houses, and I'd had this crew, and I would put 2-car garages on them, but I didn't pull permits. I would literally just throw in the foundation, and we'd build the house on the weekend, and I'd sell it. Now, I'm not advocating you do that, but that's what I did. That was my MO, and this was 38 years ago, so they can't bust me for it now. But that's what I was doing. I was throwing 2-car garages up on these houses and selling them. Now, that, by the way, you can do and pull permits. It's a little more money, but the bottom line is, there's a ton of money to be made in flipping houses if you find the deals. And if you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, you'll find the deals. But again, back to a job. Flipping is a lot of fun, and you make a ton of money. But guys, use that money to invest it in something that cash flows, because that truly is how you build wealth, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Flipping, I feel that that's kind of like the first phase. So like maybe somebody's got a corporate job and they're looking to increase their wealth. Flipping is a great thing to do on the side, on weekends, to grow that quantity of money that you can then turn around and invest in other things. I mean, sure, you can keep reinvesting to flip, but flipping is a job. I do it. I know it's a job. So if you want to get to that passive income level, that's where you've got to invest in something like multifamily. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into the multifamily? I guess you had that one guy
Well,
Open your eyes.
I started with like a duplex and then a triplex and then a fourplex and then a few of those and then a sixplex, 10plex, 20, 88, and you just grow it. But, I will tell you that like flipping, if you have the connections, if you develop the relationships, you really don't need money to do it. And I'm being candid. I bought 1,000 houses without any of my own money. So, I mean, I'm saying, I'm not going to tell you it's easier if you have your own money, but you can do it without money. And so, and same with multifamily, if you syndicate, but it's knowledge. And so, and I take phone calls from my listeners, and I take about 6 to 8 a week. I have time for that many. And I'm out months in advance. But what I tell these people, and they all want to learn in 30 minutes how to do this. And so I tell them there's two things you got to do. One, you've got to study it. And like anything, you have to study it. And the podcasts are a great way. I hope you come listen to mine, Lifetime Cash Flow podcast. But you got to do more than that. You need to get the books, or take a course. You need to book study. And I am ultimately probably going to do a course, but I don't have anything to sell at this point. But my point is, you have to do that. That said, that's just half the equation, because the other half is you have to go out there and kick the tires. You got to look at deals. You have to call brokers, develop relationships, evaluate properties, and do all this in your backyard, guys. Don't go out and try to pick a market just because your backyard's too expensive. Learn in your backyard, because that's how you're going to learn. You're going to develop an intuition. I interviewed a guy named Grant Cardone, who's a sales superstar, about a month ago, and guy's got 4,000 apartments. He's got his own jet. I mean, he's just a rock star. But he made his money in selling sales development programs, and he invested that money in multifamily real estate. Many of the people that have made a fortune in multifamily real estate have done it by making the money in something like flipping houses maybe, and then investing it in multifamily real estate. But the reason I bring him up is he studied it for 5 years before he bought his first property. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but at that point, and he talked about this in my interview, he literally could go and Google Earth a property, look at the cars, look at the way and he'd intuitively know if it was a good deal or not. And I know, and I'm sure you did, Holly, from all the houses you bought, that at some point you got to a point where you could literally walk in a house and in about 2 minutes know if it was a good deal. Am I right?
Yes. For sure.
So you develop that intuition. Malcolm Gladwell has a book called Blink that talks about that, about how you develop that intuition. But but guys, the key here is that you have to do both things. You can't just go look at deals and not study this, and you can't just study this and not look at deals. And trust me, I know, because I did the first one. I just went and bought deals, and I didn't study this, and I made every possible mistake you can ever imagine. But then again, there are a lot of people that get caught in analysis paralysis. They study it, and then they never go look at deals, and they never take action. So you have to do both. Now, guys listening, if you're willing to do that, you start building confidence. You start building congruence, and you can go out there and talk to investors and sellers and brokers and have the ability to influence them if you have that confidence. But that only comes from learning it through studying it, and learning it through going out and looking at deals. And one last thought, associate pleasure with it. Like I tell my kids, do what you love and work is play. So if you don't love it yet, make sure you associate pleasure with it so that you ultimately do love it. And I equate it to treasure hunting. And everybody loves treasure hunting. And that's what you're doing as you're learning this business and studying these properties. So there you go. There's my coaching.
I love that. I love that analogy.
Coaching session.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, some people, I'll even say women in general, they'll like to go shopping for clothes. Well, I like to go shopping for houses. I think that's way more fun than shoe shopping or clothes shopping. And I associate pleasure with finding great deals and opportunities, those win-wins, as you talked about with the
Absolutely. What else can you buy that somebody else pays for? I mean, when you buy real estate, I mean, it's like, I was just shocked as I was buying these houses one after another. And by the way, guys, I bought these one at a time from different sellers. It wasn't like bulk purchasing. I bought 2,000 houses one at a time. And the key to that is systems. Okay. I mean, I'm really good with systems, but my dumb ass should have bought multifamily and stuck with multifamily 10 years ago. Sorry, I used the 4-letter word there, but that's how I feel about my buy and hold strategy, because I'd be on the back of my yacht right now if I'd have done that instead of single family homes, and I'd have survived '08. But But anyway, guys, I hope you're getting the message, and that is, invest in yourself, invest in annuities, and maybe it's not multifamily, maybe it's buying a business that throws off money, but use that money to invest in something that produces cash flow. Like Kiyosaki talks about in his books. Otherwise, you're over in the self-employed section. You're not in the business owner. You're not, building an investment, in cash flow quadrant. He talks about these 4 quadrants. And, on the right, you want to be on the right side, not on the left side. The left side is self-employed and employee. The right side is investor and business owner. So, that's why, I'm a big advocate for building lifetime cash flow. And by the way, can I mention my book?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so guys, I just finished this book. It's in editing right now. It's called Lifetime Cash Flow. Imagine where I got that name. And it's 200 pages long. It's totally soup to nuts how to build how to build a multifamily portfolio, and I'm going to give it to your listeners for free. And there's no upsell. I'm not trying to, this is not a bait and hook, and it's not fluffy. This is a really good book, if I say so myself. So if they want it, they can just text my name, Rod, to 41411. So Rod to 41411, and we'll put you on the list for the book. It's probably going to take another 60 days before it's done. I just did also another non-fluffy piece called The 29 Mistakes That Many Apartment Buyers Make, and I'll probably send a copy of that as well. It's real good as well. But anyway, happy to do that. Just bear with me. It could take up to 60 days to be completely finished, but it's really good. Literally everything from picking a market to talking to brokers to talking to sellers to negotiating deals to evaluating deals to the due diligence process to the contract process to the property management process, on and on and on. So it's really good.
Love it. Can't wait to read that myself. Well,
Right.
Why don't we talk a little bit about, so they've got some money from flipping houses and they say they want to get into multifamily investing. What is like the first thing you talk about?
It's what I just said. It's study this, because this is not, this is a little more complicated than houses. Okay. There are a lot of nuances, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be intimidating, but you shouldn't go in half-cocked and dabble. You don't dabble. Okay. Don't be a dabbler in this business, because you don't want to make a mistake. And I'm saying start with a duplex. You guys that are flipping houses can handle a duplex, a quad. It's easy. Okay. And start there, or if you feel the inclination, start with a 10 unit, a 20 unit, a 30 unit. But like I said, take that dual track, study it so you understand it, and also look at deals, evaluate deals, so that you're really out there kicking the tires and starting to get a feel for the terminology, the way to evaluate a deal, how to talk to brokers, developing relationships with brokers, because they'll make you a ton of money. In the multifamily business, brokers can make you very wealthy. And I talk about that in my book, how you have to develop the relationship, and these brokers don't make any money unless they close. So sometimes it's very difficult to get them to pay any attention to you until you've actually closed on a deal. And I tell you how to get past that. But you got to do both those tracks. You got to study, you've got to look at deals, and if you'd like, I can talk a little about the psychology associated with it, because honestly, a lot of you guys are sitting on the sidelines. You listen to these podcasts and you never take action. So if you'd like, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, let's go in that direction.
All right. So I was telling you before we started that I've spent about 16 years with studying Tony Robbins' technology. I've been to probably 4 of his events every year for the last 16 years. And
wow.
And because he's incredible. And guys, any of you listening, if you ever have an opportunity to see him live, it'll be the best money you've ever spent. But and his books are fantastic too. But the bottom line is, if you're thinking about getting into this or any other business, the first thing you have to do is you've got to determine what it is you want. I mean, why are you getting in the business? What is it you want? So do your goals, okay? And don't just write down your goals, write down exactly why you want them, and not just the positive reasons either. So you want this goal, and you want it because it'll, let's say it's $100,000 a year or $100,000 a month, whatever it is, and you write down the why, because I'll be able to buy the house I want, I'll get my spouse what they want, I'll be able to get the car I want. But then you write down, if I don't get it, I'm just going to sound harsh, but, then my family will feel like I let them down, or, I'll feel bad about myself or whatever. Put some negative stuff in there too, because people will do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So make sure you put both positive and negative wise. Now, I will also tell you, get pictures of the things that you want. If you look in my planner, and you're recording this so I can actually show you my planner. I've had this planner here for 15 years, and I have pictures. If I can hold this up without knocking everything down. So here's my planner. Here's my gratitude pictures. These are my kids, okay? And these are, my son is 18. You can see how old he is here. He's like 2. But these are all things. Then I go into the things that I wanted. I have a house that looks like this now, okay? On the water, it's a compound. I have, well, I guess my point is I have 3/4 of the things that I have in here. I have this watch. I had a Lamborghini. I wrecked it, but I had a Lamborghini. So this stuff works. Get the pictures of these things because, I'll tell you the story. When I first got in real estate, I had this 4-door Ford Granada, ugliest thing you've ever seen. I thought it was what you needed to be a real estate broker. And I wanted a Corvette. So I got a picture of the Corvette. I put it on the visor of my Granada, and I got a Corvette. Then I wanted a Ferrari because Magnum PI, Tom Selleck had a red Ferrari. I wanted that Ferrari, and I ended up getting a Maserati that looked just like it a year later. Wanted a Lamborghini my whole life. Ended up with a Lamborghini. Wanted a house on the beach my whole life. Ended up getting that. Guys, this stuff works, but you got to visualize it. Olympic athletes visualize a race. The Olympics just happened. To visualize a race before they do it. They're taught to do that because it's so effective. So visualize to manifest. Get pictures of what you want. Do the goals, your whys, the pictures, and think about and have them in front of you because you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get bloodied. You're going to get, off track. And it's these visuals and focusing on what it is you want that'll get you back on track. So, that to me, that's the driving force. And I do little 5 to 8 minute clips on shows on my podcast about the psychology of success because honestly, 80% of your 80% of your success in anything is your psychology. Only 20% is this other stuff we're talking about, the mechanics. Okay, and so you've got to, get the mindset, be able to push through fear, and that's why I do these little 5-minute episodes on mine where it's just me talking about the things I've learned from Tony. But you can get this stuff online. There's lots of stuff on YouTube about psychology. In fact, there's a lot of Tony clips on YouTube. But my point is, make sure that your mind's in the right place, that you're doing this for the right reasons, and that you have these driving force things around you. Write your goals every day. Grant Cardone's a multi-millionaire with his own jet. He writes his goals every morning and every night. I do it once a day now. I tried it for twice a day. It was just too much. But that gets you to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. And that's critical. And one last thing about success. I've met a lot of people that are very successful financially and they're very unhappy. So it's not just about success. It's also about feeling fulfilled. And fulfillment means different things for different people. You mentioned my foundation. It's really funny. I built this 10,000 square foot, $8 million house on the beach here in Sarasota. And I thought, man, this was my biggest dream. And I was floating in the pool looking up at this house and I got depressed. And because I had achieved, but I wasn't fulfilled. Okay, well, there were 2 things going on. One, guys, when you set a goal, if you're about to achieve it, make sure you have other goals positioned because like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. So you need a vision for the future. And I didn't have a vision anymore. I achieved everything. So that was one component I found out later as I evaluated how come I felt bad. But the big reason was I was unfulfilled. And that year is when I met Tony, thank God. And he had fed millions of families. And so can I talk about my foundation for a minute?
Please do. Yes.
Okay. Sure. So, and this isn't a plug for it. It's just to tell you how you can do this in your own life. Basically, I went out after I saw what Tony was doing with his basket brigade, he calls it, and I did my own basket brigade. We did 5 families in 2000. And then I got hooked because the 3rd family I delivered this big basket of food to was this lady who had she had 5 kids. She was in this shack, crappy place that she lived in. She came out, she saw the food, she started crying. Her 5 kids came out, they all started crying, and I was hooked. Next year, I fed 50 families. The year after that, 100. The year after that, 200, then 400, then 800, then 1,600. In '06, I fed 1,600 families, and I did that from my pocket. Then '08 happened, and so I formed the Tiny Hands Foundation. It's tinyhandsfoundation.org, and we have now fed 45,000 kids for the holidays. I'm very proud of that.
Wow.
And we've done thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies here locally. We just did 1,500 backpacks 2 weeks ago, filled with school supplies, which is just astounding to me that kids in America don't have basic school supplies, but I won't go off on that tangent. And then we've done thousands of teddy bears to police departments, for officers to put in their cars to give to children when they encounter a child that's experienced something traumatic. But guys, the message here, and that has fulfilled me, okay? That's bigger than the money. But the message here, you don't have to go to that level. I mean, you can be fulfilled. You get fulfilled by not focusing on yourself, but focusing on other people. So even if you just go to a restaurant and you ask the waits person how their day is going, you ask them about themselves, you smile at the people you see, then you're contributing. And that's what brings you fulfillment, is when you contribute, and it doesn't cost money. You can contribute without spending a dime. And you have no idea the impact of taking an interest in someone else. I mean, you don't know who they might see next. Could be somebody that's suicidal, and you could literally have impacted someone to save someone else's life. So, just give back, because success is empty without fulfillment. So keep, as my kind of last thought on the whole psychology thing, keep that in mind, because you want to we're in this life to be happy, not just achieve and make a ton of money. Making a ton of money is fun, but it won't make you happy.
Well, I appreciate that. Sounds like you experienced making a ton of money, and thanks for sharing that. Because
I've lost a ton of money too. Let me tell you. So it's the giving back, and of course love, and my intimate relationships, that with my family and stuff, that make you feel fulfilled. It's not the money.
Right. Well, it's what the money can do, and how many people you can help with that money, which obviously you're doing. So.
And that should be some of you guys' whys. Okay. It should be who you can help with what you do when you're a success, because I can tell you there's nothing greater than taking your parents on a cruise, or buying your mom a house, which I've done both these things, or buying them a car. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And of course, these things with the foundation and helping people that you don't have any expectation of a response from. But.
Awesome. Yeah. And I find great fulfillment when I think about all of the contractors and laborers that are working on my house flips. I had that realization a few years ago. One day I looked at my husband, I said, I think we have 35 people on job sites today that are feeding their families.
Because of you.
From us. Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Super rewarding to know.
Absolutely.
I mean, not only are we creating better neighborhoods and helping families get nice new homes, but all the people that contribute along the process. That's not even counting escrow and title and realtors and all those other.
No, absolutely. And it's important that you focused on that, because it's easy to get caught up in the money, but yes, you're adding value right there. And sometimes it's just that shift you need, but the key here is to be fulfilled. And no question, you can chalk that up in the fulfillment column. No question.
Yeah. Well, we're just here about the end of our show, and this is a little bit of backtracking, but why don't you tell us about kind of the returns on investment that people can and should expect to make in multifamily investments?
Well, they're exponential, Holly. I mean, I've made 1,000% returns. Okay. I mean, I do mobile home parks too, by the way. Mobile home parks and apartments. I mean, the cash flow can be exponential. And what's incredible about multifamily, I don't think we have enough time for me to totally explain cap rates, but if all multifamily is valued on net operating income. So when you're evaluating a property, all you're looking at is the cash flow. You don't care, value is out the window. It's irrelevant. What you're looking at is net operating income. And if you have a lower cap rate, cap rates are how you evaluate the net operating income and do a calculation to determine value. If you have a lower cap rate, it's a higher value. And I can tell you, just if you do small incremental increases in rent, like $20 in a 100-unit complex at a 6 cap, I think is like $400,000 in value, just a $20 bump in rent. So that's what's so exciting about multifamily real estate is you have things that are within your control. When you're dealing with values, you're talking about, comparable sales and things like that are out of your control. But with multifamily real estate, if you see how you can raise the rents or lower the expenses, you immediately impact value. So it's kind of, you're in the driver's seat. And that's when you're evaluating. These are some things I talk about in the book as well. But when you're evaluating a property, you're looking to see, hey, is this property have a high expense ratio? Is that something we should look at? Maybe they've got family or whatever that's been managing the property for years and they're paying them too much. So you can immediately cut expenses and immediately increase value. Or are their rents low? Are their rents at market value? And you can raise them to market value, or you can bill back utilities to those clients. It's called RUBS, and you can bill back the utilities and immediately increase value. So that's what's exciting about returns in multifamily. But if you get into it full bore and you start doing syndications and pulling in investors and things like that, 20% returns are not out of the question at all for your investors. So there you go.
Nice. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been really enlightening, exciting, rewarding, so many golden nuggets. I was just taking all kinds of great notes. And great.
Thanks. Well, I just had coffee, so if I was talking a little too fast, forgive me, guys. But thank you, Holly, for having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun because I've been the one doing cooking. So how to win friends and influence people. You let them talk. So.
So now you think I'm a good friend, right?
Yes, exactly. That's how it works, guys. Let the other person talk and they'll love you.
Yes. Well, just one more time, go ahead and say the name of your podcast and how people can get in touch with you with your website. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So it's lifetimecashflowpodcast.com. On iTunes, it's Lifetime Cashflow Podcast. And that book, if you guys want it again, it's text 41411 and just put my name, Rod, on the subject line and or text Rod to 41411. And I'll put you on the list for the book. And we'd love to have you check us out. And Holly, keep up your good work. I've really enjoyed your podcast as well. You're totally kicking butt with it.
Well, thank you. And I'll have Rod's information in our show notes. If you couldn't catch that, you can catch it in our show notes, and definitely check out his podcast.
Thanks, Holly.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
Hey there. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like it and click subscribe to get notified of more videos. And you can go to hardhatholly.com for a free download on secrets to finding great deals.